During this time lapse of an oil painting of a cosmic frog on an artist's palette, I'll be sharing some insights about my painting process. These are the colors I'll be using. I will explain more about this color palette later on in this video, where you will also be able to take a screenshot of the color palette I use. And you'll also be able to get all the other color palettes in future videos as well to experiment with and use in your own paintings. I'll also briefly be mentioning some of the symbolic and spiritual significance of a frog, since we're painting a frog. I did own my own physical art school for over 20 years, where I taught hundreds of students to paint and draw from scratch. So I thank you for joining me on this painting adventure series, and I hope you get a lot out of it. So I've been adding in flat patches of color. The colors are solid, but not necessarily thick. This is what I call the base layer of painting. Sometimes I also have an underpainting underneath, but that's another video for another day. Here I am just blending in the edges after I have added in the patches of color. It's a bit more difficult to blend on a hard surface such as this, which is a timber artist's palette primed in gesso. It's usually much easier to blend on a canvas. I'm being very light with my brush, so just adding in some paper to protect the surrounding board and adding in some more patches of color. I'm not 100% sure what I'm going to be doing with the background at this point. With other art mediums such as watercolor and gouache, I usually have my entire design mapped out before I start. But because oil painting is such a forgiving medium, you can often make things up and experiment as you go along. So at my art school, I taught mainly what I call the layered method of painting, which is not usually taught at most art schools. The layered method of painting, mainly for oil painting, has advantages and disadvantages. I think it's one of the easiest methods to learn how to do oil paints. One of the disadvantages is, of course, the fact that you need to wait for the different layers to dry, but I just do other paintings while I'm waiting for layers to dry. So again, not 100% sure what I'm going to do for the background at this point, but just experimenting a little bit here. Now this has been left for 4 days to dry. So all of the painting that I'm doing now is being done on top of dry paint. So you're adding detail on top of dry paint is usually much easier than just doing the entire painting with wet paint. The paint that I'm adding now doesn't necessarily have to be solid like the painting of the base layer. So some of the paint I'm being added now is quite thin and just being spread out. So all of these original oil paintings from this palette painting series will be available for sale, and between 20 and 100% of the proceeds will go to charity. I call it the Art Aid Palette Project. There will be a link in the description with more information. So again, just adding lighter details and tones here. I use stencils a lot. I've been collecting hundreds of stencils over many years. And in this case, because I wasn't 100% sure what I was going to do with the background, I just looked through my stencils for some inspiration. So with that wooden stick that I've got there, that helps a lot for me to support my hand when I'm painting fine detail. It's not touching the painting. I'm just leaning at the top of the board with it and holding it at the bottom. So across many cultures, the frog is a powerful spiritual symbol of transformation, renewal, and emotional healing. Because it moves between water and land, the frog represents the bridge between the physical and spiritual worlds, as well as a transformation from one life stage to another. Its association with rain and cleansing links it to purification, abundance, and fertility, while its ability to shed its skin reflects release, rebirth, and personal growth. Spiritually, the frog often appears as a reminder to adapt, to trust the flow of life, and to embrace change with openness and balance. Their presence is often seen as a gentle reminder to release the old and leap forward into a new phase. And also here just adding a horizon line. So here I'm actually breaking a design rule, because usually the horizon line is more aesthetically pleasing when it's either 1/3 up or 1/3 down, but some rules are just meant to be broken. So I didn't like those two flowers, so just painting them out there. So I'm basically just playing around here. This is the intuitive part of the painting process, adding different colors. So before I show you the final painting, I will just go back to the color palette here so that you can screenshot it and perhaps use those color ideas for your own work. So there is a large variety of colors used in this particular palette. One also has to always really think about the colors that were left out. In this case, reds, oranges, grays out, and there's also very little of that brown. So the dominant temperature of this painting is cool. The dominant tone or value is mid-tone, but it's close to dark. The dominant color here is blue. I can also go far more into color theory in future videos if people are interested. Also, let me know if you have any questions at all. comments section, and I will endeavor to answer them all. And see you in the next video.